Yeah, thanks for having me, Deborah.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Now, even though you have been an EOS implementer for a while, we haven't spent an awful lot of time together. So today's show will be just as much a learning experience for me as well. So would you like to tell myself and the listeners your EOS journey? Like, how did you get to where you are today and why? Why are you in EOS?
Yeah, I'd love to. Look, I'm born in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which part?
migrated, look, middle of nowhere, right?
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, right in the center, country town. I'm a country boy. Yeah, ultimately. Grew up in just fields and farmland, but came to Munich and in between to the US, but came back to Munich before I came to Australia. So I followed my wife down here. She's an Aussie girl. And that was about 15 years ago. And I was really lucky. I got involved with the Queensland tourism industry to help operators in the state to get better using technology, digital technologies, with the objective of being more competitive and being out there to, gain an advantage to other states and international destinations. And I enjoyed that first. I got to see the state as coming from Germany, there's the one thing you want to do. I got to travel for free, so that's a bonus. But I also had a lot of fun and passion helping some small guys on the road, the operators, to help run their business from a digital technology perspective at that point. And that theme carried along.
So what is your original background then? So this technology one, is that what you studied in? Is that how you got started?
I've got a business degree, yeah, and I would say transformation, digital transformation, business transformation is my background from a career perspective in mostly professional services or related industries.
So yeah, so you're brought on board to do that, and
Yeah, so that was good fun. I was so involved in the industry that I actually started my first businesses in the tourism sector. I was out there trying to compete with What If and Booking.com. We went out so hard and we came down really hard as well,
oh really?
That was a really good learning, but I took a lot from it. So, long story short, I came across multiple industries, still professional services, still around the how do we use technology, business transformation to help the business, help their members to get something from their services. And I ended up ultimately in a small Martech startup, and I used them before as a supplier, as a contractor, and I loved the way they worked on getting team alignment. They used EOS tools. I had no idea at the time that there are EOS tools or what they were at all. I was just fascinated of how simply they were used and how practical they are, but how effective they helped me run my teams. And that's how I got more involved with it. So when I joined that Martech startup, that's when I got really involved into EOS. So they ran or tried to run on EOS, and I had the objective to turn this business around. And we used EOS for that. And when we did so, it was I was mind blown on what came out of it. So financially, we turned it around. I started on a negative profit, and we went back into the 20 plus profit percentages. We had a culture that was off, not the right people, we would say today. That entirely changed. So we had a really fun operational cycle. And personally, I put in the 14, 15 hours per day, thinking that is what you do when you run a startup. That's what you do when you're an entrepreneur or, manage services as such. And that turned to 6 to 8. And when I saw that you can grow a business, but also have the time for yourself of not killing yourself, that's how I got, really into ES and decided that's where we continue.
okay. So you did say though, and I just picked up my language, they were trying to use EOS. So tell me a little bit about that.
So they were running on EOS. Yeah, they had implemented. I think there was still the feel we have to turn it around and apply it properly and use the tools and mechanisms that the model provides to turn the business around.
Okay. So you turned it around,
Yes.
and then?
Oh, and then, after a few years of turning this business around, there was a point in my career where I decided, is this what's next? Am I sticking around? Is this what it is, or is there something else? And I took a bit of a career break at the time. It was over Christmas. I had 6 weeks, 8 weeks off with family. My parents were here, and I noticed that no, it's I want to do something for myself here too. And that's where my thinking started around what does it mean if I want to do it for myself. And well, it took me not very long to decide on, well, hold on, that's something I know really well and I know what works and I'm passionate about it. Why not make that my living?
Mhm.
And here we are.
Here we are. Beautiful. Okay. So, in terms of the business that was using EOS, what do you think was the thing that really made the difference in that business? Was there a particular tool? Was it, what sort of really changed the business?
Yep. Two things. A very strong and disciplined scorecard. And I used the scorecard prior when I used that Martech partners as a supplier. Um, just being able to see the business, understand how it's going, and being able to hold people accountable, direct people of where to put emphasis on. I'm a numbers person, so I love to see those numbers and it helps me a lot. So that was a big tool for me to keep control on the things that are not working to make sure they are working. And the second one is right people. Uh, and I hate to say, but I think we had a turnover over the years of almost 80%, from when we started to where we, finished off or before. And that was just making sure that you really have an understanding what it means to have the right people. And I had many goes at this, it doesn't happen all the time, but if I would look back, I know how to get it right these days.
Yes. Okay. And it's interesting because I think you probably see this with your clients as well as when we start to first implement EOS, there is a lot of turnover and it feels really unsettling because it's like, oh my goodness, but we're losing all these people, this knowledge. But nobody ever says, I wish we'd kept them around for longer.
No. And hindsight, these days I would say as a tip, if you feel there's a cut coming, just cut fast. It's it's better for both in the end. And I have hesitated myself a lot because you always hit this emotional factor of how am I going to tell that person that it doesn't work? And there is a constraint and it's a barrier that doesn't happen automatically. But you get good at it after a while.
Yeah, it's like a muscle, right? If you're working regularly. But I think what's really important, and certainly I've seen this, is if you're not happy with the person in the organization, there's a really, really good chance that they're not happy either. Which means that sometimes it's actually a bit of a relief for both them and you when you have the conversation, you realize that they're better off going somewhere where they can be happy and do what they love with people they love. So it is better all round.
It is. It is. Because no one wants to go into a job or come to work when they know they are struggling to meet expectations. Yeah, it's an awful feeling.
Yeah. I think I love about the EOS tools though is, the people analyzer particularly, it really, that combined with the accountability chart, of course, but the people analyzer really gives you a chance to take all the emotion out of it and look at it from a very objective point of view. I'm imagining, because I'm half German too, of course. So, I mean, I like things to be, kind of, quite black and white and be able to know where things are at. And it just helps remove a lot of that emotion, a lot of that triggered stuff and kind of go, actually, what's really going.
Yeah. No, that's the important thing. If you can reduce the amount of emotional impact that you carry and you bring it down to the facts and where we can see where it doesn't thrive or it doesn't work in the business, it is a conversation. It's really a conversation about performance for the business rather than you're not good at your job.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is a difference.
And you mentioned scorecards, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I find that a lot of clients initially resist the scorecards. It's too hard, and it's like the scorecard really gives you cold, hard data, so you make decisions based on data rather than again emotions, rather than feelings, rather than. And as visionaries, we can be very persuasive and very good at sort of convincing people to do it our way, but the data kind of brings us back to actually, is this the right thing, or are we just going on a whim and a bit of a gut feel rather than actual cold hard data?
That's it. And yeah, I love the fact that you can always ask the question every single week again. And the expectations are suddenly moving on. I know Mirko is going to ask me this question again if I don't give the numbers. So it's changes your mindset really fast.
Yeah. So how did you go about developing a good scorecard? Because I mean, I see lots of companies, I'm sure you do too, where they've got lots of dashboards, or they've either got actually lots of dashboards, lots of information, or they have pretty much nothing. I don't see much in between, but it does take a while to really develop a good, strong, useful scorecard. Where do you start?
Oh, look, it it is a bit of a trial and error at the beginning. I always had a trial and error just to see what works over the weeks. Looking at where making sure I capture what the people do, capture what the business is focused on for this quarter or for the year, and figuring out what activities, what levers are we currently trying to move and use. And yeah, there will be scorecard items or measurables in there that you actually don't need, but they feel good at the beginning. Then you remove them and you add something else. Honestly, I think I adjusted my scorecards every quarter just because I wanted a bit of attention somewhere else. Or problems seem to move and then you just shift it and you measure something else.
I think that's really important. I think a lot of people think that you kind of set the scorecard and then it's set in stone and that's it forever, but it really shouldn't be. You should be reviewing it every single 90 days and saying, if these are our goals for the 90 days, these are our rocks, this is what we're trying to focus on, or these are our issues even. Where is that kind of being reflected on the scorecard so we can focus on it? Because we know that what we focus on, what gets measured gets improved, right?
Yeah, yeah. And once you feel you have, I worked a lot with utilization numbers, and when utilization was not where it needed to be, um, then we added those to the scorecard in detail. And once we saw, yep, the processes are now working, people have the attention to it, we remove them and we focus on other business areas of the business from a scorecard perspective that seem to need some attention.
So if I was starting out though and I didn't have a scorecard, what would you recommend that I actually do to even start thinking about what to measure?
Look, number one is what is important to you. How do you know if you're the owner or the leadership team? What are the things that you need to know that people need to do? What's important to the business? And I usually try to follow the accountability structure in its easiest, most simplest form, and that is just sales and marketing, delivery or operations, and somehow finance. Capture those three elements, and you have a pretty, I would say, 80% of the numbers that are important around making sure you put the effort into the right activities are somehow started to be captured.
And we always talk about as EOS, sometimes you want to have a mixture of leading and lagging indicators. I always use the analogy because we've got a car freak. You don't drive your car looking in the rear vision mirror, you drive your car looking at the dashboard. And most companies that I work with in the beginning, they've got lots of lagging indicators. They really are looking in that rear vision mirror all the time, but they haven't got the leading stuff. Tell me a little bit about leading indicators and why they're important.
Sure. So it's for me, I was always needed to see that the people are focusing on the activity that will get me to the goals that I have in mind. And knowing that they put the right emphasis into something that is, a leading indicator is an activity that they're doing every single day. And seeing that activity, I know the guys are doing the right things that we focus on this year. And activity can be all sorts of things, from the guys doing the sales calls, the guys going out to networking events, sales doing quoting, and so on. Uh, you name it. But knowing you have the activity in the right places of activities is just the influence and the levers you want to hit your financial numbers in the end.
Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, business, it needs to make money. That's what it's all about. If we make money, then everybody wins across the whole organization.
Yeah, yeah. Look, and if you only, track your numbers, financial numbers, yeah, you're looking at the result, but not of what influenced it negatively or positively. You need to understand what influences the financial number first.
Absolutely. So in that business, I'm curious, did you have a leadership team in the beginning, or was that something you had to develop?
No, I had a small leadership team at the beginning. Yeah. That was a leadership team of 3 or 4, if I remember correctly. It's a few years ago. Yeah. And continued that way. So typically the same, same elements. We had sales and marketing, someone in operations, someone in finance, capturing key items, key business functions, and then a team underneath each.
And did you have that sort of integrated visionary relationship really clearly spelled out, or was that something that you uncovered as you worked through EOS?
No, so the owner of the business at the time, we would call them the visionary today. Yeah, there was he would live in the owner's box, not necessarily in the business on the executive level. So we would have on the execution side of things, not a visionary in the business, but in board meetings, monthly catch-ups, yeah, the visionary would be part through the owner's box.
Okay. And so the integrator
Was
was
me.
that is you? Yeah, but was that a role that was already? No, but was it? What I'm trying to ask is, was it a role that was already identified, or was that something that
Yes.
came up? Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So they already had EOS running. So the concept of integrator, visionary roles, and the accountability chart already existed.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your time as the integrator, because I know I'm one of those few people who actually scores very, very highly on both visionary and integrator, both above 80, sort of 3% or something. So I'm actually sort of a bit unique in that respect, but naturally more of a visionary. The integrator role, though, I know from my experience when I was running a 220 person company, it can feel really lonely because you are the person kind of trying to hold it all together. You've usually got a crazy visionary who's off doing sort of crazy stuff, and then you're the one that has to have the difficult conversations, all that stuff. But I'm just interested to know, as the integrator in the business, what were the biggest challenges you faced?
So the biggest challenge at the beginning for me was firefighting. Yeah, I was drawn into client problems, client calling for not being satisfied, for budgets not met, for timelines not met, and being drawn into a lot of the operational side of the business is distracting. Yeah, you are being in it, and as an integrator, you still need to be, on the business to a degree of time. And I realized I'm actually not working on the business at all, or and 95% in it, helping the team to solve the issues, that firefighting. Um, and that was probably a challenge to get through of how do I find the time that I need to run the integrator seat properly, not being drawn into the firefighting and the issues that are in the teams below or in the other roles. Um, so that had to be established. And for that, that's why I said, people is probably the most important thing. If you get, and that's what needed to happen, you need to get the team underneath you right. As an integrator, the number one thing I would say today is have the team that does the job right. Yeah. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 people that are in the leadership team. If you get that right people, right seats, really, really well, you can perform and you can be a really, really good integrator. Uh, if you have a weakness in there, then you as the integrator being dragged into the business a lot of where you don't really want to be all the time.
I think that's a really key point, right? It's like, actually, if you're sitting here as an integrator listening into this and you're kind of going, why am I always fighting fires? Why am I always doing things? You have to ask the really hard question. Do you have the right people in the right seats in that leadership team? Because, as goes the leadership team, and so goes the rest of the organization. And so if that leadership team isn't right, it's going to have a massive impact on everything in the business. And you will find yourself getting dragged into the weeds.
That's it. And I felt it because when I started to receive calls from clients wanting to talk to me and not to the operational guys that are on the project, like something is wrong. I couldn't receive this call, but I do. So something is not working right here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you turn the business around using EOS, making sure we had the right people in the right seats, using the data, using all the 6 key components, and obviously got back to profitability, back to, I'm assuming, a much more fun place to work and all that kind of stuff. And then you decided to kind of venture into becoming an EOS implementer because that was your passion. So now you're on the other side of the fence where, you're not involved in the day-to-day running of businesses anymore. You're the person that comes in like I do and helps them to put the system in place, facilitates the conversations, difficult conversations, helps them with the coaching and accountability. What have you noticed most about that switch in roles? What do you see? What do you see often that you in the businesses you work with that you can see in yourself when you were in the business?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hesitation. Yeah. Yeah. The hesitation of the integrator, the visionary, the leadership team of uh, trying to make a seed work. Yeah. Of, yeah, no, but I think that person can do it. Yeah. And you already know they're questioning themselves at the moment, but they're not there yet to open and honestly say, actually, this is probably not the right fit. It will take some time. It's a journey to get there. And I can see it took for me almost 2 years personally to change over the leadership team. And that was hesitation as well. I hesitated moving people, reforming, really embracing right people, right seat properly. And I can still see it. Yeah, it's not an easy step to do. You're dealing with people lives and households and so on. So I get it, but yeah, it comes through all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't deal with that issue, you're never going to really get on with the rest of the stuff. So, in your work as an EOS implementer, what are the clients you're working with at the moment? Without giving away details, of course, but what kind of industries have you been working with? What are the things that you're seeing? And I think particularly well, tell me about that first, and I'll ask my next question.
Yeah, so most of my clients are in the professional services verticals. I think that's not that I really was pushing for that. It's just I guess my career is based into that or on that, and it just aligns. I've got big networks in those industries, and I probably speak the same language as well. So most of my clients are in that marketing, technology, development space, IT, financial as well, legal to a degree, and that's fine. That's typically my focus. In when I go out into business development, the professional services industries as well as tourism. Tourism is for me a passion, market as I love the industry. No Queensland tourism operators up here, and I'm focusing mostly on Queensland in terms of my area and my market. Could do so much more, so much better, especially the north people in the north. They have so much to offer, and I just feel passionate of trying to be in this vertical.
I love it, love it. So how are you finding things? Because I don't know what it's like in Queensland, but certainly in Melbourne, there's an economic downturn. There's people kind of worrying about where things are headed. We're about to go into an election over here, which means that a lot of nervousness. I also work in New Zealand. New Zealand's about to go through the same as well. So I see it in both of the countries that I'm working in. What is it like in Queensland at the moment? How are people feeling? What's going on?
Yeah, look, I think the economic pressure is there up here as it is in the rest of the country too. You can feel it. People are talking about it, of course. Cost of living is going up. Cost of running a business is going up as well. But I do see an opportunity here, and that is the Olympic Games, 2022. And it is. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this is such a big event in terms of the economic inflow of money that comes to the state and to Brisbane itself is just immense. It's a once in a generation type of opportunity. You've got to be ready for that. And in my head is how do you get ready? You will not just gain benefit from that if you're not prepared. It will not just happen unless hope is your strategy. Then you may, then you may get something or may not. So I think we can feel here there is, you see headquarters or moving offices to Brisbane to capture that market, to capture the financial stimulus that comes to. There's, of course, the infrastructure projects that are on the way at the moment or going to be on the way. There's a lot of money being poured into this state. So I feel there should be coming an uplift, a stimulus that is fairly strong if you're ready for it.
But again, you made a really valid point there. It's like you do have to plan for it. And just like everything in business, it's like if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So the plan is the really important part, is knowing what you can actually do. So I can honestly say, hand on heart, that while it's been tough here economically, the businesses that have been running on EOS for a period of time and have really embraced it have actually had their best quarters, their best years, because they're focused on the things that they can affect. You can't affect the economic downturn. You can't really. You cannot affect where the games is going to be held. But if you know it's coming, you can do something about it.
Yeah, that's it. And I think having a plan of how to utilizing that stimulus and understanding of how it's going to apply to you in the business and where you can benefit from it, that's fairly simple to figure out. It really requires a plan and a good structure, a system to get ready for that and take advantage of it. Otherwise, you hope that you somehow get something from the pie.
Yeah, yeah. As you said, hope's not a great strategy, but yeah.
Not at all. Um, yeah, and look, to put numbers in here, there is, you know, I think infrastructure is about $170 billion that over the pipeline of all the things that are plus the Olympic Games, but there's also other infrastructure projects happening. There's a lot of money being pushed into the economy from that regard. Tourism is expected to grow from 17 billion to 40 billion over this period. So there is an immense uplift of economic value to be part of. And I think there is about $8 billion being put aside for small business operators in Queensland for the Olympic Games alone from, that's of course development, but there's agencies, there's legal, there is security service, there's cleaning service, venue management. So there is a piece for everyone here. The question is, how do you take action? How do you get ready for a stimulus that big? And you're not starting at, oh my God, I could have access to this, but actually I don't know how to scale my business right now. I'm hit the ceiling and and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm not ready for it. And then this opportunity passes really quick.
And that's the thing. You can't kind of do it 2 weeks beforehand and go, right, we need to get ready now. You've got to be thinking about this a lot further out in terms of what you need to do, particularly if the business needs to scale to cope with that growth.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's really interesting. I love all things scaling businesses, and I think there's two really important things in a business. I mean, there's that long term view of where you're headed, because if you don't know where you're going, and will get you there. But then it's breaking it down into bite sized chunks. The 90-day plans, the rocks, the weekly meetings, the short term stuff is actually what moves the needle. The big goal keeps you focused. The short term stuff moves the needle, and unfortunately, different for business running on EOS, but a lot of businesses don't take that time on a weekly, quarterly basis to actually look at what's working, what's not working, adjust things as need be. And you see it all the time. It's when you start to bring that discipline in that you see changes, I would say almost immediately. I don't know about you, but I think that you don't get it's not a magic silver bullet, but I know that as soon as people start running on EOS, within the first few weeks, they can already start to see some differences in the way that things work.
Yep. Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. And I see many clients after a period of 6, maybe 9 months, see a shift in the organization on the performance financially. And I feel this was easier than I thought. You know, this feels good. I mean, just starting to move the needle now. So yes, it's, I think the discipline and the focus on what's important is a shift that comes quite quickly.
Yes, no, I agree. And that's why I love the whole EOS process, in terms of, I love the fact that in the focus day, we don't focus on the big plan and all the rah-rah stuff. We kind of go, what can we fundamentally change in the business, so that when you leave this session room, you're going to have something that's actually going to change the way you do business from the very beginning. And it's lovely. I mean, you've obviously done a few focus days with clients and things now. What do you think is the biggest kind of aha moment in a focus day for most clients?
I think the biggest is, I find the most confronting is going through the accountability chart. And because it is so early on in that day as well, it comes straight up. Yeah, see, this is not just a fun workshop. Yeah, it is really about looking at the business and what's best for the business. And people realize quickly, oh, good, all right, well, this is going to be serious. And that when you have the first real, true, honest conversations popping up, that probably had to be dealt with a long time ago for most, or many at least. And I love that moment. Yeah, I love when they see that people realizing they need to address something that they haven't addressed, and they're starting to make good decisions for the long term or the better good of the organization. And that aha moment from there on, I feel it flies once we got through that.
Yeah. And sometimes that can take a long time, right? I remember I don't know about you, my longest one was 6 hours on the accountability chart.
Uh,
And I
I
was like,
haven't done it in 6 hours yet, but I've got the 4.
yeah, yeah. I think 6 was a little bit too long, but it had to be done. And you know, as you said, it flushes out conversations that needed to be had a long time ago, but that haven't been had. And so therefore you can't just brush over it once lightly and go, oh yeah, that's enough. You actually have to have those meaty conversations. And yeah, that can be tough, but it's easier when you've got somebody helping you, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, guiding that a little bit so it stays a little bit, more objective and focused on for the business and not personal.
Yeah, it's always challenging. Tell me, what have you seen in terms of results from your clients? What's the first things you start to see as they start to embrace EOS? What do you see happening in their business?
Ooh, clarity. I get this all the time. It's oh my god, this plan is clear. Yeah, there's direction. I feel now we have a plan of how we drive this business forward. So that clarity of how to get to where they wanted to be, that they haven't achieved themselves yet. So that suddenly becomes clear. And I feel the second piece here is there's a very clear ownership of who does what, who owns what, and how we're measuring ourselves to drive accountability. They see the impact, how this all connects. And I think that is very powerful in your first quarter when you start running on EOS of how that elevates every single week.
Yeah. And we use the term, clarity creates confidence, and it's so true. Most of the times when teams are struggling or the business is not kind of performing well, it's because there's no clarity about what each person's doing, what they're accountable for, what makes the business turn. Even just things like sharing numbers and things. I think that's one of the things I love about EOS. We start to actually share numbers with everybody. It's not just the accountant's role, but it's actually like, here's what we're trying to do as a business, and suddenly they start to understand how that business actually operates.
Yeah, yep, yeah. And I feel sometimes I've been to check in and I have the conversations about, they're bringing in a few other ideas on the side. It's like, okay, so how much time have you spent on this new thing? And all right, good. So how much time have you not done on what's on your accountability chart of what you're designed to do? Oh, yeah, look, what does it do here, scorecard? Oh yeah, I've got a couple of red numbers here for the few weeks. So you did this, and we stopped doing this. You know, what do we think is going to happen? Oh, yeah, I think revenue might not be where we wanted to have it. So, see the model, how it works. I just love when that clarity and that crystal ball suddenly, oh my God, I can see what I've done. Pops out.
I'm really proud. I've got a team in Melbourne that is a manufacturing team. So they manufacture sort of big water tank things, and they've got about 170 staff. And they have been running on EOS for a little while, and they've actually been able to share numbers across the whole of the organization. And they've got to the point now where every single person, no matter where they work, whether they're working on a factory production line or they're working out in the fields, actually understands EBITDA and understands how their role contributes to EBITDA, but also, more importantly, the context of why that's important and what it means for them as individuals as well. And like when you get that level of understanding, you've got everybody wanting to make the business more profitable, wanting to make it go faster because they know that they're going to benefit from it. And that makes my heart sing because then we've suddenly got everybody rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I'm sure you see this too. And this is not to knock anybody, but sometimes when you start working with leadership teams, there are people, if they're not in the financial seat, they don't even have a basic understanding of a basic profit and loss. And again, I'm not meaning that disrespectfully, but we talk about revenue, we talk about cost of goods, we talk about gross profit, net profit, and some of them just have they've never been taught it. So, we expect them to know it, but nobody's ever taught it to them. So how would they know it? And they all turn to the financial person, like, what are the numbers? When I've been working with a team for, 6 to 9 months, there's no excuses. I need every single person, that leadership team, to know the numbers. It's not the finance person's role. And they do. They come in, they can tell you quite proudly, this is, what we've done, because they're starting to see, like you just said, how it all fits together, how it all links.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, you get I get this awesome understanding of how you apply your role to the greater good. Suddenly you feel like I understand myself of what I contribute, And if I want something to a new project, a new shiny thing, I suddenly like, oh, hold on a second. This is a small business. Just asking for money as I used to do to the finance, and if they give it to me, yeah, I can do what I want. Suddenly you're like, hold on, this may not actually work because we're influencing our numbers here. And small businesses not necessarily have unlimited budgets. Actually, probably never, right?
Yeah, highly
Because
unlikely. Yeah.
you can't just have a bad quarter just to throw some money at this or at that. It doesn't. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I mean, I actually come from a sales and marketing background originally. Well, actually, a biochemist originally, but I come from a sales and marketing background in business, at least. And, I remember I was very, very fortunate working for quite a large organization where, I had a massive budget. We started off with $3 million for marketing, ended up being $9 million by the time I left 3 years later because I'd be able to show return on investment. And so they kept increasing the spend. But of course, small businesses don't have that luxury. They don't have the luxury of those huge, big budgets. So it's really good. I love the marketing part of the VTO, which actually gets everyone in the organization thinking about who is the ideal client. Not we want to be everything to everybody, but who is the ideal client? So we can actually really focus our energy on the right people rather than just throwing money out to try and be everything to everybody.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Making sure that everyone puts their emphasis on what do we really need to focus on when we go out and look for target markets.
Yeah. And that marketing strategy, like by defining the ideal client and really speaking to their three uniques and what they're looking for, it also gives you a sense of, what do we need to deliver as a team? So I love the proven process and the guarantee because that starts to drive your internal process, your internal way of working. If you've got a really strong guarantee, everybody in that business has to be behind it because if we fuck it up and we don't kind of deliver on it, then that's going to cost the business money. And so all of that drives the way the business actually operates.
Yes, yes.
Get very excited about this stuff. I love it. Clarity. Clarity creates confidence. It's brilliant. um, Tell me in terms of, we've talked a little bit about some of the things that happen in the first sort of few months. Results wise, so what have you seen with clients that you've worked with in terms of results? I mean, yes, we can increase the top line revenue, but what else happens when you start to put focus on the business using the EOS tools?
Yeah. Look, the second most important thing is probably everyone needs financial results. There's no doubt about it. That's what we're driving for. The amount of efficiency that comes through it into the organization. So I just had a session yesterday, and the overall feedback was we are the smallest team probably since at the moment for a very long time, but we had our best quarter ever. So it just shows you of how much time you waste on shiny things that don't make you money, that distract you from the core purpose or the core focus of your organization. And I had the same. I personally knew that we had a smaller team, but we grew the organization with more profit year by year by reducing the people that are actually working in the organization. And that shows you the efficiency that EOS can provide if if you stick to it. And also shows you of how much time you waste if you're not following a system or a proper structure or a plan.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. So it certainly, I think overall, it just helps you focus on the things that are important. You've got to ask the question, does it make the boat go faster? And if it doesn't make the boat go faster, why are we doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, there's one thing that I always love, and these are the personal stories that I love, is when the founder or the visionary or the integrator comes along and says, I'm on a holiday. I'm going for 2 weeks and I'm doing this the first time in 6, 7, 8 years. And they come back and say, I didn't really need to do anything. uh, yes. Yeah. This is where we want to be. Yeah. You trust your team, you have a good operating model, and things are getting done the way they should be done without being there or around. That personally I find this very satisfying.
Yeah. Actually, we run an integrator peer group, and we actually ran it this morning, and one of the integrators shared a similar story as one of my clients, their integrator. For the business has grown from being a smallish team of 3 or 4 people up to, I think, I don't know, they probably got about 20 people now. And for the first time, the owner actually went away on holiday for 2 weeks because he's got the right people in the right seats in the leadership team, and he felt like he could go. Now, has he completely let go? Probably not. He'll probably still, yeah, but nevertheless, to go away for 2 weeks and know that the business will continue continue to run without him. That's what this is all about, right? This is what we all, as business owners, it's what we want. It's actually what we go into business for, but often we don't get it because we just keep scaling the chaos rather than scaling in a structured way.
Yes, yes. And scaling cows really doesn't work.
No, no, no. I can definitely attest to that from previous businesses that I've run. So yes, it is good. Hey, Mirko, 3 top tips or tools. What are the sort of 3 things that you would love to share with people? Either things that you've personally learned through your journey or things that you love within the EOS framework?
Yeah. So I think the number one, we touched on it, is the people side of things. And my tip to everyone who's in that similar scenario is make a really quick decision. Yeah. Don't wait. Don't hold off on letting someone go, having that tough conversation about do they really fit the seat or not? Are they fitting the values or not? Go there really fast. I personally hesitated a few times, too long, and it doesn't work. It doesn't. Waiting doesn't work. So, on people's side, if the worst decision has to be made and you need to let someone go, make it fast and quick. Get that quickly. That's probably one tip. That if I would do my job again from years ago, that's the one thing is go there quickly, go there early. Uh, to always have a scorecard and always be there every week. Go into that scorecard. It drives behavior. It absolutely changes behavior in the business. You just being there, spending 5 minutes on that scorecard, looking at the numbers, asking some questions. It's probably back in the days my favorite tool of driving teams. And then there is the third, and that is you've got to learn to apply discipline. And what I mean with that is, so I share you something with that's my privately. That's my EOS life here, Deborah. Now we haven't talked about that yet. Is I'm an ultra runner. Yeah, so I run 100 Ks on trails throughout
Just
the
for
year.
fun.
Well, it is fun. It's pain too, right? I've got one tomorrow actually.
Oh,
So
wow.
got a big race tomorrow coming up. But where I'm going with that is when I started doing that, there's such a big parallel between businesses and long or ultra running. And running 100 Ks or call it 40 even, or a marathon or anything where that you feel is not possible for you right now. It is this big, audacious, hairy goal that you have in mind. You have to break it down. You have to work quarter to quarter, build yourself up to get there. You have to train, what we call it. And I run scorecards in here myself. That's why I love scorecards so much. I track my elevation, my distance, my food intake, just to make sure I'm actually getting there quarter by quarter. And here comes the discipline. I've got a plan and I've got a coach who puts a plan together, which is the same thing in the business. You have a plan and you execute every day. So execution for me is I go out there, no matter what, and I do my 10K run, my 50, my sprints, or whatever is on the agenda. It can be raining, doesn't snow, but if it's nice, it'll be fun. Yeah. I could have a bad day. I could have been in a session for too long. I still figure out how am I getting this done. There's a discipline that you need to apply to your business because you can't just rock up and run 100 Ks or 40 Ks. You can't just rock up and double your turnover without that grinding quarter by quarter, moving you day by day forward. And that for me is discipline that you need to apply. And if you cut corners, when that discipline slips, everyone else slips too. And I learned this a lot through my life outside of EOS. I apply it every single day because I know if I stop the discipline here, I'm not going to survive this 100K run. I know the same with my clients. If they're not putting in the discipline, I'm always watching. Yeah, I know they're not getting there as far or as quickly as they want to.
It reminds me of a story. I can't remember. It's a famous story. I can't remember the exact details, but it was talking about 2 armies or two bands of people who were trying to cover a certain distance. And one team just went out, like you said, rain, hail, shine every day, walked there, whatever the number of kilometers it was that they had to do. And the other one would do big spurts, but then when it was cold, they kind of go, "Oh, we'll just take the day off because it's cold and we don't want to be out in the snow." And it was the consistency that won. The people who just went out there, rain, hail, or shine, are the people that actually get the results. And I think that happens a lot in businesses where they do the quick sprint and then they hurt themselves or they don't want to go out because it's cold, or yeah. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so just to be really clear, so people make a quick decision, rip the band-aid off as quickly as possible. You'll never regret it. Scorecard, it drives behavior and it changes behavior because what gets measured gets improved. And then, yeah, learn to apply discipline. Execution and consistency is actually really the key. You said you have a coach for your ultra marathons, ultra running stuff, and that's what we do for businesses, right? With a coach, with the people who keep them. Why is it important to have a coach?
There's one quote we always use, Deborah, and that is, you can't understand a system if you're part of the system. And that's it. You can't see yourself when you're in it. So you need to someone on the sideline that tells you what's really happening sometimes. It's the same when you play football. You can be the captain of a great team, but you are out there playing. You're in the middle of it. You can't see from the top of what's happening overall. You can't see the system. And that's where a coach comes in. Someone that tells you from the outside of what's going on, that holds you accountable if you're not following the plan, if you're getting sidetracked, or if you got blind on, not wanting to watch or look into some directions. That's why you bring a coach in, someone who can help you understand of what is looking, how the organization is going, helping you see it too, and hold you accountable to your actions.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also think it's really, really hard, and we know this ourselves. And, if you, especially when it comes to the business stuff, the US stuff, you can't actually be in the meeting and trying to facilitate the meeting and trying to take the notes and trying to do all of that. It's overwhelming. You've got to pick a role, and the role we really want you to play is the business owner who's there as part of the leadership team, participating in that process.
Yes, it is. That will be a tough job.
Well, I think I've tried it. I think we've all tried it ourselves. I know I tried it
Yes.
myself in the business. It's like, yeah, it didn't work. So we still have an implementer and a coach just to help our business as well. Hey, Mirko, it's been great to learn a little bit more about you. I love your passion for the EOS process and tools, and for scorecards, particularly data. There's a whole book on it that you can read. I think data is
Yes.
really important. It's one of the things we tend to forget a little bit about. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for for being on the show and giving us some of your top
Absolute
tips
pleasure.
and tools. Lovely to talk to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Deborah.